Shocking DNA test exposes hidden truth. Pregnant woman faints as mistress's smile disappears. Sarah's heart raced as she stood in the sterile restroom of the clinic, the sleek plastic of the home pregnancy test cradled in her trembling hands. Could it be possible? After one summer filled with vibrant laughter and dreams spun with Jake, the local businessman wrapped in charm and polished reputation, she was going to be a mother again. Her vision of family, loyalty, and love felt almost tangible. Yet as minutes crawled by, shadows of doubt began to creep in. What if this was just another deception masked by his charisma? Returning to the floor, the scent of antiseptic filled her nostrils, mixing with the anxiety swirling within. Her colleagues whispered in corner huddles, glancing her way, their eyes shifting with conspiratorial intrigue. The whispers hung in the air, igniting her unease. "Have you heard about Jake's past?" one had asked, their tone thick with suspicion. A clandestine figure named Lily, an art gallery owner, surfaced in their conversations like a dark cloud above her sunny sky. What secrets could Jake possibly be concealing? Before she could process anything, Sarah's friend and fellow nurse, Rachel, caught her eye, her brow furrowed. "You okay, Sarah? You look pale." Panic quickened inside her, gnawing at her stomach. A cruel thought invaded her mind, demanding attention like an urgent alarm. What if their dream was a facade? "It's just work stress," she replied, forcing a smile as she retreated to her workstation. Days later, she couldn't shake the gnawing feeling inside her anymore. The urge to uncover the truth surged forth, rooting deep in her sense of determination. Approaching Rachel, her tone was steady but firm. "What do you think about a DNA test?" Sarah's proposition hung in the air, heavy with implications. A line had been crossed, and all she could do was wonder if her innocent decision would force her to confront a reality she wasn't ready to accept. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days leading up to the revelation felt like a dark cloud looming over her. Her pulse quickened as she finally unraveled the sterile envelope. Inside, the evidence bore a silent weight that threatened to crush her. One test, a few pages, yet it shattered the world she thought she knew. The DNA match glared back at her, shimmering like mocking truth. Jake's longtime mistress. With a fresh wave of anguish flooding her chest, Sarah stood stiff with disbelief. All those moments, the warmth of his laughter, the promises they exchanged seemed to evaporate, replaced by the cold sting of betrayal. She recalled the look in Jake's eyes when he spoke of family values, wondering how someone so poised could paint a lie so convincingly. That in turmoil, she reached out to her mother, seeking solace in the familiarity of her protective embrace. Yet, her mother's voice turned fierce, urging action, compelling Sarah to confront Jake. "You deserve the truth," her mother insisted. The tension coiled tighter with each passing minute as she prepared for the confrontation she both dreaded and craved. Underneath the ancient oak tree, the echoes of laughter faded, replaced by a chilling silence. Sarah's pulse syncopated with the rustle of leaves as she searched Jake's features for a trace of honesty that might not exist. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, hesitance gripped her stomach. Anguish flooded her mind. A family woven from betrayal chilled her resolve, and all her dreams hung precariously on the edge of decision, ready to plunge into darkness. Would forgiveness ever be possible? The silence hung thickly, a tangible barrier between Sarah and Jake. Her heart raced, each beat a thunderous reminder of the stakes at play. She could sense a fracture within herself, a divide between the illusions woven during sunlit days and the raw truths now laid bare under the rupture of his betrayal. "Sarah," Jake began, his tone cautiously probing, lifting the weight of uncertainty between them. But she couldn't bear to hear what was coming. This was more than a conversation. It was the foundation of her life shattering. The clarity she gained in these moments was dizzying. The acoustics of their laughter before were haunting now, echoes of promises she'd held close to her heart. "Don't," she interrupted, the word sharp and vibrant with emotion. Her voice quivered but held the steadiness of resolve. "Don't pretend as though we can just talk. The facts don't lie. You've shattered everything I thought I knew." Jake's expression began to shift from confusion to defensiveness, and Sarah found herself both angry and intensely sad. How could someone she admired turn into a stranger so quickly? This was not just about betrayal. It struck at the core of who she believed he was. "I can explain, Sarah. There are things you don't understand," Jake pleaded, desperation tinging his voice. "What's there to understand?" she retorted, a newfound fierceness surging within her. "You lied. You deceived me for your own gain, all while I invested my heart into our future." The rawness in her voice echoed with the strength of her emotions: loss, anger, disappointment, and fear for the life growing within her. His eyes held a mix of guilt and indignation. "Lily and it was complicated. I never intended for it to go this far, and I didn't mean for you to find out this way." Complicated? The word tasted bitter on her tongue. "You expect me to believe that the woman who has been part of your life for years was just a trivial complication? My entire world has flipped upside down. I need to know where you stand, Jake." With every word, Sarah felt a backbone she never fully realized she had. This confrontation was not just about Jake. It was about reclaiming herself. Standing under the sprawling oak, the familiar comfort of its shade seemed to transform into a jury of her own making, ready to weigh her next steps. "I thought you were different," she finally stated, her voice steadier now, more resolute. "I thought you loved me. I thought we were building a future together." Wincing at the pain in her own voice, a surge of clarity washed over her. This wasn't just a test of his loyalty, it was a crossroads for her own identity, her strength, and her future. Forgiveness felt distant, a ghostly possibility tainted by betrayal. But more than that, Sarah felt a gnawing realization that she would ultimately need to define herself, separate from what he had taken from her. "Tell me the truth, Jake. What do you really want?" Her eyes bore into his with uncompromising intensity. The question lingered as they stood suspended in uncertainty. She was staring into a void created by his choices. Yet internally she began formulating a plan what her next steps would be if Jake didn't mirror the strength she found within herself. Yet as she awaited his fragile, hesitant answer, her heart hammered in her chest, signaling that perhaps, in claiming her own truth, she might also embrace a new path forward. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket, interrupting the fragile moment. It was a call, the screen lighting up with a name that unsuspectedly froze her in place: Lily. The impending realization struck Sarah. Perhaps her confrontation was only the beginning. Would she be forced to prepare for an interaction with the very woman whose shadow loomed over her own reality? With the pulse of anticipation surging wildly through her, Sarah steeled herself, ready to seek the truth, no matter where it led her. The buzzing continued, insistent and unrelenting, as Jake's hands trembled slightly when he glanced at the caller ID. A flush of color drained from his face, revealing the depth of his panic. Sarah observed him, a keen awareness dawning that told her she was on the precipice of something monumental, an unexpected twist that could redefine everything. "Do you want to take it?" she asked, her voice carrying a bitter edge. The question lingered, heavy with meaning. Part of her craved to confront Lily, to dive headfirst into the source of this disruption. But another, quieter voice cautioned her, demanding to tread lightly. Jake hesitated, and for a fleeting moment, Sarah saw the torn fabric of his facade. He opened his mouth, no words escaping as the ringing pierced the air. An instinct surged through her, pulling her deeper into the confrontation. She had spent too long on the sidelines of her own life, and if she was to reclaim her narrative, she needed to act. "Answer it," she commanded, her resolve solidifying. The words came out strong, even as her mind raced. She was a myriad of emotions, frightened but determined, anxious but resolute. This was not merely about Jake or Lily. This was about her, reclaiming her power in a situation that threatened to suffocate her spirit. Jake's hand hovered above the screen, caught in a trap of indecision. The minutes stretched endlessly, but Sarah sensed his hesitation. This was not just another call. It represented the chaos he had crafted, and the more he delayed, the more control he lost. "Fine. I will," he muttered before answering the call, and then Jake spoke a quiet hello that hardly masked the tension between them. As she watched him navigate this conversation, Sarah felt the shards of her heart continue to tighten. She was engulfed in a storm of discerning her next steps. What kind of woman answers a call when the stakes are this high? Tension swirled around her, tangible and suffocating. Without realizing it, she had taken a step closer, invading Jake's space in this volatile moment. She hadn't felt this level of intensity before. It thrummed through her like an electric current. She needed to be ready. Sensing the shift of power, she suddenly imagined herself in control, an unexpected thrill coursing through her. This moment was her opportunity to redefine femininity on her own terms, emerging from the shadows Jake had cast over her. "Lily, I can't," he began, voice trembling, revealing cracks in his pretenses. The conversation unfolded, a mixture of urgency, fear, and half-hearted reassurances. Sarah allowed herself to breathe deeper as she heard fragments, piecing together the story that had long eluded her grasp. The strength building within her flashed against the uncertainty that lay ahead. She could confront Lily, but how much emotional terrain was she willing to traverse in order to find closure? This wasn't just a confrontation, it could be a reckoning. As the call droned on, Sarah dared to imagine a future where she reacquainted herself with hidden strengths, some dormant in the quiet corners of her heart. The plans she had for her life were clashing with this new reality, and the person she had to become was taking shape, forged in the fires of betrayal. The conversation with Jake turned sour, punctuated by Jake's hushed tones and ultimately a defeated "I think it's better if we just meet." Sarah felt an almost magnetic pull toward the next moment, a collision of fate looming large. Everything she faced was culminating into an epic realization: she could walk away, or she could unleash the strength she was discovering within. When Jake finally hung up, his shoulders sagged, as if a burden had been placed upon them anew. The gravity of the impending interaction left them both shaken, and Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. "I need to meet her," she declared abruptly, surprising even herself. Uncertainty hung in the air, but there was an emerging clarity in her purpose. Jake's expression shifted again, this time to one of genuine surprise and fear. "Sarah, you don't have to do this," he said, his voice laced with desperation. "Yes, I do," she responded sharply. "It's time I confronted not just you, but her as well. I want to continue to let your choices dictate my future." With determination coursing through her veins, she felt every heartbeat sinking with a newfound resolve to seize her narrative back firmly into her hands. But standing on the brink of conflict, a looming question still hovered in her mind. Would facing Lily truly liberate her, or further entrap her in a web of emotions she was still fighting to untangle? The weight of her decision settled over Sarah like a thick fog, but within it, she felt a flicker of clarity. This meeting with Lily wasn't merely a confrontation. It was a rite of passage, an opportunity for transformation that she had denied herself for far too long. It beckoned her to step boldly into the light, leaving the shadows behind. "Let us go," she said, her tone firm, cutting through the lingering apprehension in the air. Jake's expression twisted with a mixture of fear and disbelief. She could see him grappling with the implications of her words, reluctant to confront the chaos his choices had woven. In that moment, she realized the true depth of her resolve. This was about rewriting not just her future, but reclaiming her sense of self. As they drove, silence enveloped the car, heavy with unspoken words. Each passing landmark felt surreal, transforming the literal distance into a metaphor for the emotional chasm widening between them. The streets they traveled were now a labyrinth of conflict, and she could feel the tension radiating off Jake, a palpable reminder of his shattered facade. She held her breath, defying the doubt that swelled within her like a tide eager to sweep her under. "Are you sure about this?" he finally asked, breaking the silence. His voice trembled, betraying a flicker of the confidence she had previously known. Honestly, she turned to look at him, her gaze unwavering. This is something I need to do for me. I can't stand by and let your reality dictate mine any longer. It's time for consequences. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, and she recognized the flash of hurt in his eyes. Maybe deep down, Jake wasn't simply a perpetrator in this unraveling saga. He was another human being standing on shaky ground, afraid of the future. But how could she empathize with him when he had wielded the knife that had cut so deeply into her? As they arrived, a swell of emotions surged through her: fear, anger, but most importantly, determination. In that instant, she embraced the truth. Confrontation was the path to liberation. Their shared history no longer constrained her. She was no longer a passive character in this narrative. She was rewriting the script, and with every determined step toward Lily, she felt the chains of doubt begin to dissolve. Lily arrived shortly after, embodying a confidence that grated against Sarah's heightened awareness of her own insecurities. But even as Lily walked toward her, a practiced smile plastered on her face, Sarah felt an unexpected power within. This was not merely a face-off between rivals. It was a confrontation with the version of herself that had succumbed to doubt. And in this moment, it was her chance to speak her truth. Lily began, but Sarah cut her off. Stop. The word emerged louder than she anticipated, surprising them both. Anger surged within her, but it was not directed at Lily. Instead, it was frustration at the years she had spent suppressing her voice, allowing unpredictability to govern her life. You've taken enough from me. Lily's demeanor shifted. The confidence faltered, revealing a glimmer of defensiveness. Sarah pressed on, cutting through the tension with precision. This isn't about love or betrayal, she continued, heart racing. This is about you and me speaking honestly, laying bare the truth that threatens to suffocate both of us. I want to just stand here while you smile and pretend everything is fine. The silence that followed was charged with a primal energy. As the air thickened with unspoken words and veiled truths, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. Would she confront the reality of her pain, or slide back into the comfort of silence? In that moment of reckoning, clarity washed over her like a cleansing wave. Now was the time for grit. She wouldn't allow Jake's choices to trap her narrative any longer. The strength she had unearthed demanded to be expressed. Let us talk, she said, the tone in her voice grounding itself in undeniable conviction. But unbeknownst to her, the full weight of this confrontation was yet to unravel. As she prepared to delve into the chaos of emotions cultivated through betrayal, a revelation emerged. Could she handle what lay behind Lily's facade? The painful secrets hidden beneath. With every second that passed, the air thickened with anticipation. A profound understanding loomed before her, and only then did she question whether she was truly ready for the visceral truths that would unfold. As Sarah stood before Lily, anticipation coursed through her veins, intermingling with the underlying current of fear. She had taken the first step, an affirmation of her growth. Yet the journey ahead felt fraught with potential pitfalls. Though her voice had finally broken free from the chains of silence, what lay ahead remained uncharted territory. Let us talk, she repeated defiantly. The command reverberated between them, sanctioned by the tension lingering like an uninvited guest overshadowing their history. Lily's smile faltered, momentarily vacating her face. Yet Sarah noticed the flicker of self-preservation in her gaze. This was not just a confrontation of narratives. It was a battle of identities, each desperately clinging to its constructed self. As the seconds ticked by, Sarah felt every heartbeat echoing her resolve. Do you know what it's like to wear a mask every single day? Sarah asked, her voice trembling but steady. To smile and pretend you're fine while pain simmers beneath the surface? Lily's expression transformed. The bold facade cracked, and before Sarah stood a woman not unlike herself, stripped of pretense. I never intended for this to hurt you, Sarah, she admitted, the defensive undertone absent now, replaced by sincerity. But even as the words landed softly, they stirred something volatile within Sarah. An implication that she had been minor collateral damage, in a relationship that had never belonged solely to her. This isn't about intentions, Sarah replied, tone sharpening. It's about the choices you made. Shock registered on Lily's face, but Sarah's confrontation wasn't just about accusations. It was a revelation, a shift in the narrative she had been part of for so long. Understanding flickered in her mind, illuminating the complexities behind the scenes. Jake wasn't solely to blame for her suffering. This was a mosaic of human complications, desires, and miscalculations. But that didn't give Lily a pass, not in Sarah's eyes. I spent so long allowing my insecurity to define me, allowing your decisions to twist my self-worth, Sarah confessed, courage morphing her vulnerability into strength. But I'm not the shadow of your mistakes anymore. I am reclaiming my story. The air shifted perceptibly, heavy with the reality of their shared entanglements and their consequences. Sarah took a step closer, challenging the confining space between them. She would not retreat into self-doubt. I want to understand why. Why hold on to something that you knew could only bring harm? The question hung, acute and piercing. It pressed against the walls of defense Lily had built. Lily opened her mouth, hesitating, and in that split second, Sarah recognized a pivotal truth. Vulnerability could be a weapon, cutting deeper than any spoken insult. It could dismantle even the most polished facade if met with authenticity. I had to survive, Lily finally whispered, the revelation clouded with remorse and pain. I thought I could find happiness elsewhere, that I'd be happier if I took what he offered. By hurting others? Sarah countered. Did you think you could be free by shackling someone else's happiness? The question lingered, echoing the resonance of their shared truths, a delicate balance of empathy and anger. In that charged moment, Sarah felt the contours of her emotional landscape shift once more. For every step they took in revealing their hurt, an opportunity formed for understanding and individual growth. Perhaps there was more at play than revenge and resentment. This confrontation could become a gateway to something profound. It could lead her down pathways of self-discovery she hadn't realized were available. Maybe we both need to let go of our pasts for different reasons, Sarah ventured slowly. The idea was raw and desperate, but also liberating. Lily's eyes glistened, her defenses crumbling. Is it even possible? Only if we're willing to face the truth, Sarah replied, heart racing with a newfound sense of possibility. They stood poised on the brink of transformation, two women entangled in a complex web of desires, fears, and regrets. But as the silence deepened, Sarah realized one crucial truth. Self-acceptance required the courage to embrace uncertainty. What if, she said, voice barely above a whisper, we shared our truths? Not just the ones that hurt, but everything, the good, the bad, everything? With that, the stakes escalated. It was a risky proposition, but as Sarah awaited Lily's response, she felt the thrill of potential awaken within her. Each word unveiled a raw honesty that could either forge an agreement or deepen their divide. Could they turn this confrontation into a catalyst for something greater? Or would the truths they shared fracture the fragile bridge she had extended toward Lily? The air thick with uncertainty, Sarah held her breath as she awaited Lily's response. She sensed the gravity of her proposition drifting through the charged space between them. Lily's eyes turned inward, grappling with an internal battle. Sarah felt a flicker of sympathy stir within her. After all, Lily was facing her fragmented reality too, each shard reflecting a choice that wasn't merely hers alone. Silence lingered, stretching into a palpable tension. What do we do with these truths? Lily finally uttered, her voice barely high enough to slice through the weight hanging over them. Maybe we begin by admitting what we've been hiding, from ourselves most of all. Sarah's heart raced as she pushed the boundaries of vulnerability further. What lay beneath her initial confrontation had morphed into something profoundly transformative. It wasn't merely about accusation now. It was a quest for mutual healing, an invitation to strip away the veils of deception that coated their experiences. Fingers trembling with raw energy, Sarah continued, think about it, Lily. What if we told the whole story? The parts we've both kept buried? She leaned in, eyes locked onto Lily's, seeking some semblance of connection, some spark that could light the way ahead. Lily's brow furrowed as she pondered the depths of that available honesty. "You really think that could make any difference?" "I have to believe it can," Sarah replied. The admission felt like stepping onto thin ice, fragile yet exhilarating. Each word ceased to exist in the realm of mere thought. They were now possibilities, echoes of what could come if they dared to navigate through the mess together. With a tentative nod, Lily began to peel back her layers, disbelief etched in her features. "All right, but it has to be real. No more hiding." "Yes," Sarah affirmed, grateful for this unexpected alliance. This shared commitment felt like the leap into a foggy abyss. She realized she was initiating a journey that intertwined their fates, weaving moments of honesty alongside their tangled pasts. "I thought I could protect myself by acting first, by being the one to take control," Lily began, her voice shaking slightly. "But I didn't realize I was hurting you and others in the process. I thought—" Her pause communicated a torrent of regret layered beneath the pained exterior. "Often we justify our choices without understanding their impact," Sarah interjected, empathizing. The words felt like armor as she equipped herself with the understanding that both women bore scars, both battle-hardened by mistrust and error. "In my search for my own happiness, I became blind to how my decisions affected those I claimed to care about. It was all about survival. And that survival came at a cost," Sarah added, feeling the weight of the truth settle into her chest. The realization that pain could be an instinct, a misguided act of self-preservation, resonated deeply within her. The room drew tighter, the confessions practically palpable as they echoed through the sparse air. Two women, together confronting the complexities of their intertwined lives, navigating the waves of guilt, resentment, and perhaps, just perhaps, understanding. "Maybe it's not just about us," Lily contemplated, her voice steadier now. "What if we could let these truths shape us into something better, something more authentic?" "We owe it to ourselves," Sarah replied, finding the trace of her earlier fear dissipating. This wasn't simply a confrontation. It was a birth of new identities forged in the fires of honesty. In this moment, change felt tangible, within reach. But the reality of their pasts loomed as an ominous shadow, daring to disrupt the newfound clarity they were forging. "This feels monumental," Lily remarked, a cautious hope emerging in her tone. Yet, beneath that hope, unease lay dormant. Each decision had consequences. Every truth shared bore the risk of retribution, of reforming connections into something unrecognizable. "Shall we?" Sarah prompted, her spirit flickering with intensity. "Yeah, let us lay it all bare," Lily responded, her voice trembling with possibility as she fully reserved her heart as they prepared to unfold the intricacies of their intertwined lives. A new dread crept in. What if some truths were too powerful, too destructive to share? What if the remnants of their pasts clawed back, disrupting any chance at reconciliation? Each heartbeat resounded with anticipation, urging them towards an uncertain horizon, one where terrible, beautiful revelations awaited. And within that swirling fear and promise, one question anchored Sarah's thoughts. How far were they really willing to go to redeem themselves and each other? The conversation hung in the air like a fragile gossamer thread, and Sarah could feel her heartbeat quicken as she leaned further into the abyss of unrevealed truths. The stakes had been raised, and as they exchanged glances filled with both trepidation and resolve, a burning question consumed her. Was she prepared to face the reality hiding in the depths of their histories? "Let us start with the hardest part," Sarah said, her voice suddenly steady, as if testing the waters of a new resolve. "I need to admit something first." Lily's eyes widened with curiosity, a shade of apprehension weaving through her expression. "What is it?" With a deep breath, Sarah focused on the sting of past choices, her throat tightening at the recollection. "I let myself believe I was invincible, that my decisions didn't affect anyone but me. I thought I could stand alone, but I've realized how misguided that was." She felt the weight of each word, each moment of isolation she had crafted out of fear. Lily nodded slowly, her face softening as she recognized the commonality in Sarah's struggle. "I get that. I thought I was protecting everyone, but at what cost?" Their eyes met once more, and for a fleeting moment, the connection between them deepened. It was not simply regret shared, but a yearning for redemption. Then let us lay it all out, Sarah suggested, the kernel of their unraveling slicing through her interior resolve. What if we start with the moments that haunt us? You go first. Really? Lily hesitated, her vulnerability palpable. Sarah knew this was a point of no return, but they had already ventured far enough into this transformative space. Okay. I never told you why I left that job so abruptly. The unguarded expression crossing Lily's face told Sarah that the revelation would not be trivial. Go on. I had a chance to advance, but it meant throwing someone I cared about under the bus. I didn't take the opportunity. Instead I quit. Lily's voice trembled, the truth unraveling with raw edges. I've always been so desperate for approval, for respect. I was terrified of being seen as a traitor, but I lost my own identity in trying to please everyone else. That sounds suffocating, Sarah replied, recognizing the echoes of her own past choices mirrored in Lily's confession. She realized her earlier defenses had been built on a foundation of fear and obscured intentions. A painful truth she felt compelled to confront as Lily began to reveal the layers she had hidden beneath her bravado. Sarah felt a spark ignite within herself. What if this was the change she was seeking? Now it's my turn, she said, leaning forward, emboldened by Lily's sincerity. I've held onto this facade of strength, convinced I could handle everything alone. I neglected to appreciate how my ambition affected the people around me. A cascade of emotions flared within her, igniting an unforeseen urgency. One day, I pushed Tom away when he needed me most. I told him my career came first and he walked out. I wish I had chosen differently. The truth shook her, revealing a vulnerability she had kept hidden even from herself. Those words hung between them, raw and charged, as if calling for both absolution and acknowledgement. Lily's eyes shimmered with shared pain, wrestling with her own revelations. You're not alone in that. We made choices we thought would define us, but they only muddled our paths. Their conversation shifted gears. It was one thing to unearth the past, but another to address the deeper, weightier implications of their admissions. Could they reconcile the urgency of their revelations against their pressing realities? They understood that their honesty would have ramifications beyond this moment. They were walking precariously between accountability and self-liberation. Would honesty about the past resemble a bridge to true connection or an incitement of further chaos? It feels like a heavy burden, doesn't it? Sarah said, feeling the tension ripple through the air. The question is, are we ready to bear this together moving forward? Yes, Lily replied firmly, her resolve hardening. But we should map out our expectations. We have to be ready for the fallout. As they navigated their newfound commitment to honesty and reconciliation, the emotional scales began to shift ominously. Would they emerge strengthened, or would the intertwining truths of their pasts become chains, dragging them back? With every vulnerability laid bare, a nameless dread curled in Sarah's stomach. The past was not merely an echo. It was a living entity that could either suffocate or empower. As they prepared to delve deeper into their shared realities, one question loomed large with impending urgency. How would they shield themselves from the irreversible consequences their revelations might unleash? The air between them thickened with anticipation, a silent acknowledgement that they were now entwined in each other's battles. Sarah stole a glance at Lily, whose eyes held an unwavering determination, a stark contrast to the quagmire of doubt swirling within her own thoughts. Could they navigate this treacherous terrain together, or would they find themselves drowning in the weight of their confessions? With a palpable intensity swelling inside her, Sarah tapped into a well of courage. We deserve to know the truth about ourselves, even if it's painful. But we also owe it to ourselves to build something meaningful from it. No more pretenses. Lily took a moment, her brow furrowing as if piecing together a puzzle. So what do we do now? How do we reckon with the fallout? Let us set clear intentions, Sarah suggested, her voice gaining a newfound resolve. We're not here to hurt each other but to promote growth. Right? Lily nodded, her expression flickering with uncertainty. But what if those intentions lead to more hurt? That's a risk we have to take. Sarah replied, a light of conviction breaking through the fog of anxiety. We're already carrying the burden of our past. What's unspoken looms larger than what's been shared. As they articulated their shared commitment to build from their wounds, Sarah felt a shift within her. It was like discovering a long-lost compass hidden beneath layers of doubt. They both craved understanding not just of each other, but also of themselves. Let us identify what we need moving forward, she proposed, her pulse quickening. I want to learn how I can genuinely connect with others, not just through ambition but with authenticity. Lily's gaze moved to the wall behind Sarah, contemplating. I think I need to rebuild trust in myself, to stop looking for validation from everyone else. I've sacrificed so much in that quest. This admission catalyzed something inside Sarah. She realized they were forging paths that weren't solely about reconciliation with each other, but also about their own identities. Each of their words danced with an urgency that propelled them toward something deeper, a reevaluation of their core values. Maybe we should make a pact, Sarah ventured. One that holds us accountable. Could be simple, like a commitment to express our need for support honestly. A pact, Lily mused, a glimmer of hope illuminating her features. I like that idea. Promise to be transparent, even when it's uncomfortable. As they drafted their pact, Sarah felt invigorated, as if they were sculpting a fledgling version of themselves free from the shadowy remnants of their fears. She felt the air around them shift from vague anxiety into a dynamic force, one that held potential for renewal rather than retreat. Yet, amid their newfound resolve, doubts clung to Sarah like a persistent mist. What hidden truths might arise from this commitment? Would their efforts forge a stronger bond or expose fissures they were unprepared to handle? Let us talk about our next steps, she said, momentarily shaken by her own thoughts. What if we confronted some of the people we've hurt? Would that be unlocking doors or smashing them down? Lily's expression vacillated between apprehension and curiosity. Except for Tom, I think facing him is crucial for you. But I'm not sure I'm ready to face my past so directly. Perhaps we don't have to do it all at once, Sarah suggested, stripping away the pressure. We can take it slow. Breaking things down allows us to manage the fallout without being overwhelmed. As they discussed their tentative plans, weaving readiness with caution, Sarah sensed that this was not merely a conversation about apologies or amends. It was a strategy, an unearthing of personal agency they had both long abandoned. Yet, despite the clarity emerging from their dialogue, a looming question hovered above them like a storm cloud. Could they truly navigate the repercussions of this pact, or was it simply a precursor to further chaos? The clock ticked ominously in the background as their hearts raced with unspoken fears. Would they empower each other to conquer the remnants of the past, or would they open doors that unleashed more than they bargained for? As they held each other's gaze, the realization settled in they were on the cusp of a reckoning, one that would either liberate them or plunge them back into revelatory turmoil. What awaited them at the threshold of confrontation? The morning sun streamed through the cafe windows, casting warm patches of light on the tables as Sarah and Lily settled into a corner booth. With their pact freshly forged, the air buzzed with a sense of possibility, yet the next steps loomed large like distant thunder. Sarah toyed with her coffee cup, its heat contrasting sharply with the anxiety simmering beneath her surface. Okay, she began, breaking the silence that draped over the table. Let us lay out our plan. You mentioned Tom, we need to think about how to approach him. Lily leaned back, her brows knitting together in contemplation. What if he reacts poorly? I mean, when I told him I wanted to move on, it was like I was ripping off a band-aid he didn't want removed. A flicker of doubt shifted in Sarah's mind. The potential for fallout was overwhelming. But isn't that the point? If we don't face our fears, they'll just fester. She felt her composure slipping but clung to her resolve. Besides, it's about us taking charge. We can't be held hostage by his reactions. A tense silence enveloped them as they grasped for what it meant to step beyond the boundaries of their comfort zone. A sense of urgency propelled Sarah to pour out her thoughts. I want to be honest with him, no more avoiding the hard conversations. If I truly want to be better, then facing him is essential. Lily nodded slowly, her mind racing. And you think he'll understand? He has been so wrapped up in his own narrative. Sarah squared her shoulders, holding onto a burgeoning sense of purpose. It doesn't matter how he perceives it. What matters is being truthful with myself and owning my actions. It's about reclaiming my narrative. Lily's expression shifted, an ember of determination igniting within her. You're right. If I'm aiming to trust myself again, I have to lead by example. But what about those conversations you've been holding back? The weight of those unsaid words pressed down on Sarah, threatening to suffocate her newfound assertion. I haven't decided how to approach the others yet. It's daunting acknowledging I've created waves in their lives. Maybe you could start small, Lily suggested. Reach out to someone you feel comfortable with. Set the tone for a more profound conversation. Sarah contemplated this, a faint flicker of hope sparking within her. Yes, someone like Rachel. We always had a connection, but I allowed my ambitions to overshadow that friendship. If I don't start with her, how can I expect the rest to unfold? Exactly. Each connection is a step toward rebuilding. Lily's voice held a reassuring firmness that bolstered Sarah's spirits. As they mapped out their approach, doubts began to melt away in the warmth of their shared ambition. Each conversation became a new path carved out, less about confrontation and more about liberation. Yet, as their ideas crystallized, a darker thought crept in. What if we end up exhausting ourselves? What if these conversations lead to devastation instead of healing? Sarah's voice quivered as she voiced her fear, the map of intention feeling treacherous underfoot. That's a valid concern, Lily conceded. But if we quit before trying, we won't grow. We'll remain stuck in the same cycles of our past. The gravity of their pact weighed heavily on Sarah. It was more than a promise, it was a challenge, a declaration that they would not shrink in the face of hard truths. Taking a deep breath, she sifted through her fears, realizing they were what had held her back all this time. I guess we need to remind ourselves of our intentions when the going gets tough, she said more firmly. Yes, Lily agreed, her eyes lighting up. Our intention isn't to blame, but to heal ourselves and each other. They shared a moment of clarity, both sensing a shift. It was a long road ahead, laden with uncertainty and fear, but also with hope and growth. As the conversation drew to a close, Sarah's phone buzzed insistently, interrupting the moment. A message flashed on the screen from Tom. Can we talk? I need clarity about us. A chill ran down Sarah's spine, the uncertainty of the moment colliding with her resolve. She glanced at Lily, who met her gaze with an equal mix of apprehension and excitement. Looks like the reckoning is upon us sooner than expected, Sarah whispered, the weight of possibility hanging in the air. Could she steer this conversation toward the healing they so desperately needed, or would it spiral into chaos they couldn't control? The time had come. As Sarah stared at the flashing message, the world around her seemed to fade. The gravity of the moment consumed her, forcing her to confront all her feelings from the past months. Meeting Tom was not just about reconciling their relationship. It was about confronting her choices and accepting the weight of her past. She had made such a concerted effort to step into her power, to reclaim her narrative, and now she was presented with a decisive test. Are you ready for this? Lily asked gently, her caring tone breaking through Sarah's reverie. Taking a moment to gather herself, Sarah inhaled deeply, feeling the tension knotting in her stomach start to dissipate. Yes, she finally replied, her voice steady and resolute. Today is the day I face my truth and take ownership of my life, no matter how hard it may be. Good, Lily nodded appreciatively. Remember, this is about your honesty. Whatever happens, you have the strength to control your narrative. With renewed vigor, Sarah typed a quick reply to Tom, suggesting they meet at a nearby park. It felt fitting. They had shared so many memories there under open skies, and it was a place filled with the echoes of their shared laughter and dreams. As she pressed send, a sense of empowerment coursed through her veins. She was no longer a passive participant in her life. Arriving at the park, Sarah felt the fluttering anxiety return. While she had been preparing herself internally, the prospect of facing Tom, the embodiment of her past struggles and failures, felt daunting. But she hadn't spent weeks unearthing her truth, tearing down her walls, to shrink back now. There he is, Lily pointed out, her voice almost a whisper as if to ease the tension that loomed between them. As Tom approached, the space around them seemed charged with unresolved energy. Sarah's heart raced, each beat mirroring the tumult of emotions within. Would he be open to hearing her? Would he understand the depth of her realizations? "Hey," Tom greeted, somewhat awkwardly, his eyes flickering between Sarah and Lily, perhaps processing the unspoken alliance that had formed. "Hi, Tom," Sarah began, her voice strong but soft, instinctively drawing on the empowerment she had nurtured over the last weeks. "Thank you for coming." Tom gestured towards a bench, and they took a seat, the weight of all their shared history thick enough to feel like a physical presence. "I wanted to talk because I feel like we have a lot to unpack," he started, his brow furrowed with a mix of curiosity and concern. A fleeting moment of vulnerability washed over Sarah, but she caught it and transformed it into determination. "I agree. I've spent so much time building walls and pretending everything was fine. But the truth is, I've been hiding." The admission felt like a cleansing of sorts, as if years of unexpressed fears and insecurities had found a voice. Thomas' expression softened, inviting her words to flow freely. "I know I didn't handle things well," he admitted, his eyes revealing a glimmer of regret. "But you also pushed me away when I needed you. I didn't understand why." In that moment, Sarah saw the path laid before them. This confrontation didn't have to be filled with blame. It was about understanding. "I pushed you away because I was scared," she confessed. "I thought that prioritizing my career meant I had to sacrifice everything else, including us. I didn't realize how toxic that mindset was until recently." Tom nodded slowly, acknowledging her remorse while showing his own. "I thought I was being supportive, but I also felt abandoned. It was difficult to watch you focus on that part of you and seem so distant." The air around them shifted as they began to acknowledge the complexities of their relationship. They shifted from mere sentiments of blame and resentment to expressions of genuine vulnerability. The ground they stood on transformed from battleground to shared journey, and realization dawned. "If we're going to move forward, we both need to accept our shortcomings," Sarah said with a newfound resolve. "I'm sorry for how I've acted, and I want to work on being better. Not just for us, but for myself." "I'm sorry too," Tom replied, his voice thick with emotion. "I wasn't honest about how I felt, about my own insecurities that led me to withdraw." In that moment, a deeper understanding unfolded between them, distilling months of confusion and hurt into clarity. They were no longer defined by the mistakes of the past. Instead, they were laying the foundation for something new. Behind them, the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that mirrored the shifting dynamics sitting between them. Feeling the warmth of the light on her face, Sarah embraced a stunning revelation. She wasn't just chasing validation or a particular identity. She was reclaiming her essence, redefining who she was meant to be. "Can we commit to rebuilding?" Sarah proposed, her heart stabilizing under the weight of hope. "We can take it slow, reconnect, and see where it leads." Thomas' eyes lit up, and a tentative smile broke through. "I'd like that. Let us be honest from now on." As they exchanged hopeful glances, Sarah felt a bittersweet victory swelling inside her. They had begun forging something new, something real that acknowledged their past while looking toward a brighter, shared future. They were not defined by who they were, but rather by who they could become together. The journey ahead would not be easy, but with every step down this new path, she felt certain of one thing: she had conquered the journey from despair to self-empowerment, ultimately reclaiming her life in a way that felt undeniably her own. This was her new chapter, one of resilience and hope, carved from the very lessons that once threatened to break her. She stood tall, her heart lit with determination, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Now, it's your turn. If you found inspiration in Sarah's journey of transformation, you need to subscribe now to stay updated on exclusive emotional stories that can change your life. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover their strength. Comment below your thoughts and theories about the ending. What did it teach you? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share the gift of personal overcoming stories.